have been taking care of us as he ought. If you choose, you are free. If you choose, you blame no man, accuse no man. All things will be at once according to your mind and according to the mind of God. Petrification is of two sorts. There is petrification of the understanding, and also the sense of shame. This happens when a man obstinately refuses to acknowledge plain truths and persists in maintaining what is self-contradictory. Most of us dread mortification of the body and would spare no pains to escape anything of that kind, but of mortification of the soul we are utterly heedless. With regard, indeed, to the soul, if a man is in such a state as to be incapable of following or understanding anything, I grant you we do think him in a bad way. But mortification of the sense of shame and modesty, we go so far as to doubt strength of mind. If we were as intent upon our own business as the old fellows at Rome are upon what interests them, we too might perhaps accomplish something. I know a man older than I am, now superintendent of the corn market at Rome, and I remember when he passed through this place on his way back from exile, what an account he gave me of his former life, declaring that for future, once home again, his only care should be to pass his remaining years in quiet and tranquility. For how few years have I left, he cried. That, I said, you will not do. But the moment the scent of Rome is in your nostrils, you will forget it all, and if you can but gain admission to court, you'll be glad enough to elbow your way in and thank God for it. Epictetus, he replied, if you ever find me setting as much as 1 foot within the court, think what you will of me. Well, as it was, what did he do ere ever he entered the city? He was met by dispatch from the emperor. He took it and forgot the whole of his resolutions. From that moment he has been piling one thing upon another. I should like to be beside him, to remind him of what he said when passing this way, and to add how much better a prophet I am than you. What then? Do I say man is not made for an active life? Far from it, but there is a great difference between other men's occupations and ours. A glance at those will make it clear to you all day long they do nothing but calculate, contrive, consult how to wring their profit out of foodstuffs, farm plots, and the like. Whereas I entreat you to learn what the administration of the world is, and replace a being endowed with reason, to learn to consider what you are yourself, and wherein your good and evil consists. A man asked me to write to Rome on his behalf, who, as most people thought, had met with misfortune, having been before wealthy and distinguished. He had afterwards lost all and was living here. So wrote about him in a humble style. He, however, on reading the letter, returned it to me with the words, I asked for your help, not for your pity. No evil has happened to me. True instruction is this, to learn to wish that each thing should come to pass as it does. And how does it come to pass? As the disposer has disposed it. Now he has disposed that there should be summer and winter, plenty and dearth, and vice and virtue, and all such opposites for the harmony of the whole. Have this thought ever present with thee, when thou losest any outward thing, what thou gainest in its stead. And if this be the more precious, say not, I have suffered loss. Concerning the gods, there are who deny the existence of the Godhead. Others say that it exists, but neither bestirs nor concerns itself, nor has forethought for anything. Third party attribute to it existence and forethought, but only for great and heavenly matters, not for anything that is on earth. A fourth party admit things on earth as well as in heaven, but only in general, and not with respect to each individual. A fifth of whom were Ulysses and Socrates, are those that cry, I move not without thy knowledge. Considering all these things, the good and true man submits his judgment to him that administers the universe, even as good citizens, to the law of the state. And he that is being instructed should come thus minded, how may I in all things follow the gods, and how may I satisfied with the divine administration, and how may I become free, for he is free for whom all things come to pass according to his will, and whom none can hinder. What then is freedom? Madness? God forbid, for madness and freedom exist not together. But I wish all that I desire to come to pass, and in the manner that I desire. You are mad, you are beside yourself. Know you not that freedom is a glorious thing and of great worth? But that what I desired at random, I should wish at random to come to pass so far from being noble, may well be exceeding base. You must know that it is no easy thing for a principle to become a man's own unless each day he maintained it and hear it maintained as well as work it out in life. You are impatient and hard to please. If alone you call it solitude, if in the company of men you dub them conspirators and thieves and find fault with your very parents, children, brothers, and neighbors, whereas when by yourself you should have called it tranquility and freedom, and herein deemed yourself like unto the gods. And when in the company of the many you should not have called it a wearisome crowd and tumult, but an assembly and a tribunal, and thus accepted all with contentment. What then is the chastisement of those who accept it? Not to be as they are. Is any discontented with being alone? Let him be in solitude. Is any discontented with his parents? Let him be a bad son and lament. Is any discontented with his children? Let him be a bad father. Throw him into prison. What prison? Where he is already, for he is there against his will. And wherever a man is against his will, there to him is in prison. But Socrates was not in prison, since he was there with his own consent. Knowing thou what speck thou art in comparison with the universe? That is, with respect to the body, since with respect to reason, thou art not inferior to the gods, no less than they. For the greatness of reason is not measured by length or height, but by the resolves of the mind. Place then thy happiness in that wherein thou art equal to the gods. Asked how a man might eat acceptably to the gods, Epictetus replied, if when he eats he can be just, cheerful, equal, temperate, and orderly, can he not thus eat acceptably to the gods? But when you call for warm water and your slave does not answer, or when he answers brings it lukewarm, or is not even found to be in the house at all, then not to be vexed or burst with anger, is not that acceptable to the gods? But how can one endure such people? Slave, will you not endure your own brother that has God to his forefather, even as a son sprung from the same stock and of the same high descent as yourself? And if you are stationed in a high position, are you therefore forthwith to set up for a tyrant? Remember who you are and whom you rule, that they are by nature your kinsmen, your brothers, the offspring of God. But I paid a price for them, not they for me. Do you see whither you are looking down to the earth, to the pie, to the pit, to those despicable laws of the dead? To the laws of the gods you do not look. When we are invited to a banquet, we take what is set before us, and were one to call upon his host to set fish upon the table or sweet things, he would be deemed absurd. Yet in a word, we ask the gods for what they do not give, and that although they have given us so many things, asked how a man might convince himself that every single act of this was under the eye of God, Epictetus answered, do you not hold that all things are bound together in one? I do. Well, and do you not hold that things on earth and things in heaven are continuous and in unison with each other? I do, was the reply. Else how should the trees so regularly, as though by God's command, at his bidding flower, at his bidding send forth shoots, bear fruit and ripen it, at his bidding let it fall and shed their leaves, folded up upon themselves lie in quietness and rest? How else as the moon waxes and wanes, as the sun approaches and recedes, can it be that such vicissitude and alternation is seen in earthly things? If then all things that grow, nay, our own bodies are thus bound up with the whole, is it not this still truer of the souls? And if our souls are bound up and in contact with God as being very parts and fragments plucked from himself, shall he not feel every movement of theirs as though it were his own and belonging to his own nature? But you say, I cannot comprehend all this at once. Why, who told you that your powers were equal to God's? Yet God hath placed by the side of each a man's own guardian spirit. To the Stoics, the guardian spirit was each man's reason, who is charged to watch over him, who guardian who sleeps, nor is deceived. For to what better or more watchful guardian could he have committed each of us? So when you have shut the doors and made a darkness within, remember never to say that you are alone, for you are not alone, but God is within, and your guardian spirit What light do they need to behold what you do? To this god you also should have sworn allegiance, even as soldiers unto Caesar. They, when their service is hired, swear to hold the life of Caesar dearer than all else. And will you not swear your oath that are deemed worthy of so many and great gifts? And will you not keep your oath when you have sworn it? And what oath will you swear? Never to disobey, never to arraign or murmur at aught that comes to you from his hand, never unwillingly to do or suffer aught that necessity lays upon you. Is this oath like theirs? I swear to hold no other dearer than Caesar, you to hold our true selves dearer than all else beside. How shall my brother cease to be wroth with me? Bring him to me, and I will tell him, but to thee I have nothing to say about his anger. When one took counsel of Epictetus, saying, what I seek is this, how even though my brother be not reconciled to me, I may still remain as nature would have me to be. He replied, all great things are slow of growth, nay, this is true even of a grape or of a fig. If then you say to me now, I desire a fig, I shall answer, it needs time. Wait till it first flower, then cast its blossom, then ripen. Whereas when the fruit of the fig tree reaches not to maturity suddenly, nor yet in a single hour, do you nevertheless desire so quickly and easily to reap the fruit of the mind of man? Nay, expect it not, even though I bade you. Epaphroditus had a shoemaker whom he sold as being good for nothing. This fellow by some accident was afterwards purchased by one of Caesar's men, and became shoemaker to Caesar. You should have seen what respect Epaphroditus paid him then. How does the good Felicion? Kindly let me know. And if any of us inquired, what is Epaphroditus doing? The answer was, he is consulting about so-and-so with Felicion. Had he not sold him as good for nothing, who had in a trice converted him into a wiseacre? This is what comes of holding of importance anything but the things that depend on will. What you shun, enduring yourself, attempt not to impose on others. You shun slavery. Beware of enslaving others. If you can endure to do that, one would think you had been once upon a time a slave yourself. For vice has nothing in common with virtue, nor freedom with slavery. Has a man been raised to the tribuneship? Every one that he meets congratulates him. One kisses him on the eyes, another on the neck, while the slaves kiss his hands. He goes home to find torches burning. He sends to the capital to sacrifice. Whoever sacrificed for having had right desires, for having conceived such inclinations as nature would have him. In truth, we thank the gods for that wherein we place our happiness. The man was talking to me today about the priesthood of Augustus. I said to him, let the thing go, my good sir. You will spend a great deal to no purpose. Well, but my name will be inserted in all the documents and contracts. Will you be standing there to tell those that read them, that is my name written there? And even though you could now be there in every case, what will you do when you are dead? At all events, my name will remain. Inscribe it on a stone, and it will remain just as well, and think beyond Nicopolis, what memory of you will there be. But I shall have a golden wreath to wear. If you must have a wreath, get a wreath of roses and put it on. You will look more elegant. Above all, remember that the door stands open. Be not more fearful than children, but as they, when they weary of the game, cry, I will play no more. Even so, when thou art in the like case, cry, I will play no more and depart. But if thou sayest, make no lamentation. Is there smoke in the room? If it be slight, I remain. If grievous, I quit it. For you must remember this and hold it fast. The door stands open. You should not dwell at Nicopolis, well and good, nor at Athens. And I will not dwell at Athens either, nor at Rome, nor at Rome either. You shall dwell in Gyara. Well, but to dwell in Gyara seems to me like a grievous smoke. Depart to a place where none can forbid me to dwell. That habitation is open to all. For as for the last garment of all, that is the poor body. Beyond that, none cannot do aught unto me. This is why Demetrius said to Nero, You threaten me with death, but it is nature who threatens you. The beginning of philosophy is to know the condition of one's own mind. If a man recognizes that this is in a weakly state, he will not then want to apply it to questions of the greatest moment, as it is men who are not fit to swallow even a morsel, buy whole treatises and try to devour them. Accordingly, they either vomit them up again or suffer from indigestion, whence come gripings, fluxions, and fevers, whereas they should have stopped to consider their capacity. In theory, it is easy to convince an ignorant person. In actual life, men not only object to offer themselves to be convinced, but hate the man who has convinced them. Whereas Socrates used to say that we should never lead a life not subjected to examination. This is the reason why Socrates, when reminded that he should prepare for his trial, answered, "Thinkest thou not that I have been preparing for it all my life? In what way? I have maintained that which in me lay. How so? I have never secretly, openly done a wrong unto any. In what character dost thou now come forward? Is a witness summoned by God. Come thou, saith God, and testify for me, for thou art worthy of being brought forward as a witness by me. Is aught that is outside thy will, either good or bad? Do I hurt any man? Have I placed the good of each in the power of any other than herself? What witness dost thou bear to God? I am in evil state, master, I am undone. None careth for me, none giveth me aught. All men blame, all speak evil of me. Is this the witness thou wilt bear, and do dishonor to the calling wherewith he hath called thee? Because he hath done thee so great honor, and deemed thee worthy of being summoned to bear witness in so great a cause? Wouldst thou have men speak good of thee? Speak good of them. And when thou hast learned to speak good of them, try to do good unto them, and thus thou wilt reap in return their speaking good of thee. When thou goest into any of the great, remember that another from above sees what is passing, and that thou shouldest please him rather than man. He therefore asks thee, is this in the schools? What didst thou call exile, imprisonment, bonds, death, and shame? I call them different things, and I call them things indifferent. What then dost thou call them now? Are they at all changed? No. It is then thou that art changed? No. Say then, what are things indifferent? Things that are not in our power. Say then what follows, that things which are not in our power are nothing to me. Say also what things you hold to be good, a will such as it ought to be, and a right use of the things of sense. And what is the end? To follow thee. That Socrates should ever have been so treated by the Athenians, slave. Spiritual. To love or to die. Between death and love, there is no alternative. Love and death are so mingled in the passion of our Lord that we cannot have the one in our heart without the other. Love alone. All is love, and in love, for love and holy church, hatred separates us, and love brings us into
Oh, to die. Between death and love, there is no alternative. LOVI-24. Love and death are so mingled in the passion of our Lord that we cannot have the one in our heart without the other. All is love and in love for love and holy church. Are two incompatible things.
That Socrates should ever have been so treated by the Athenians, slave, why say Socrates, speak of the thing as it is, that ever then the poor body of Socrates should have been dragged away and haled by main force to prison, that ever hemlock should have been given to the body of Socrates, that should have breathed its life away. Do you marvel at this? Do you hold this unjust? Is it for this that you accuse God? And Socrates no compensation for this? Where then for him was the ideal good? Whom shall we hearken to, you or him? And what says he? Anytus and Miletus may put me to death to injure me is beyond their power. And again, if such be the will of God, so let it be. Nay, young man, for heaven's sake, when once thou hast heard these words, go home and say to thyself, it is not Epictetus that has told me these things, how indeed should he? No, it is some gracious God through him, else it would never have entered his head to tell me them. He that is not used to speak to any one thus, well then, let us not lie under the wrath of God, but be obedient unto him. Nay, indeed, but if a raven by its croaking bears thee any sign, it is not the raven, but God that sends the sign through the raven. And if he signifies anything to thee through human voice, will he not cause the man to say these words to thee, that thou mayest know the power of the divine? How he sends a sign to some in one way, and to others in another, and on the greatest and highest matters of all signifies his will through the noblest messenger. What else does the poet mean? I spake unto him erst myself, and sent Hermes in the shining one to check and warn him, the husband not to slay, nor woo the wife. In the same way, my friend Heraclitus, who had a trifling suit about a petty farm at Rhodes, first showed the judges that his cause was just, and then at the finish cried, I will not entreat you, nor do I care what sentence you pass. It is you who are on your trial, not I. And so he ended the case. As for us, we behave like a herd of deer when they flee from the huntsman's fellows in affright. Which way do they turn? What haven of safety do they make for? Why, they rush upon the nets, and thus they perish by confounding what they should fear with that wherein no danger lies. Not death or pain is to be feared, but the fear of death or pain. Well said the poet, therefore, death has no terror, only a death of shame. How is it then that certain external things are said to be natural, and others contrary to nature? Why, just as it might be said if we stood alone and apart from others, a foot, for instance, I will allow it is natural should be clean, but if you take it as a foot, and as a thing which does not stand by itself, it will beseem it, if need be, to walk in the mud, to tread on thorns, and sometimes even to be cut off for the benefit of the whole body. Else it is no longer a foot. In some such way we should conceive of ourselves also. What art thou, man? Looked at as standing by thyself and separate, it is natural for thee in health and wealth long to live. But looked at as a man and only as a part of a whole, it is for that whole's sake that thou shouldst at one time fall sick, at another brave the perils of the sea again, know the meaning of want, and perhaps die an early death, while in repine. Knowest thou not that as the foot is no more a foot if detached from the body, so thou in like case art no longer a man? For what is a man? A part of the city. First of the city of God's out of man. Next of that which ranks nearest it, a miniature of the universal city. In such a body, in such a world enveloping us, among lives like these, such things must happen to one or another. Thy part then being there is to speak of these things as is meet, and to order them as befits the matter. That was a good reply which Diogenes made to a man who asked him for letters of recommendation. That you are a man, he will know when he sees you, whether a good or a bad one. He will know if he has any skill in discerning the good and the bad. But if he has none, he will never know, though I write to him 1,000 times. It is as though a piece of silver money desired to be recommended to someone to be tested. If the man be a good judge of silver, he will know the coin will tell its own tale. Even as the traveler asks his way of him that he meets, inclined in no wise to bear to the right rather than to the left, for he desires only the way leading whither he would go, so should we come unto God as to a guide, even as we use our eyes without admonishing them, to show us some things rather than others, but content to receive the images of such things as they present unto us. But as it is, we stand anxiously watching the victim, and with the voice of supplication call upon the augur, Master, have mercy on me, vouchsafe unto me a way of escape. Slave, would you then have aught else than what is best? Is there anything better than what is God's good pleasure? Why, as far as in you lies, would you corrupt your judge and lead your counselor astray? God is beneficent. But the good also is beneficent. It should seem then that where the real nature of God is, there too is to be found the real nature of the good. But then is the real nature of God, intelligence, knowledge, right, reason. Here then, without more ado, seek the real nature of the good. For surely thou dost not seek it in a plant or in an animal that reasoneth not. Seek then the real nature of the good in that without whose presence thou wilt not admit the good to exist in aught else. What then? Are not these other things also works of God? They are, but not preferred to honor, nor are they portions of God. But thou art a thing preferred to honor, thou art thyself a fragment torn from God, thou hast a portion of him within thyself. How is it then that thou dost not know thy high descent, dost not know whence thou comest? Dost not know whence thou comest? When thou eatest, wilt thou not remember who thou art that eatest, and whom thou feedest? In intercourse, in exercise, in discussion, knowest thou not that it is a God whom thou feedest, a God whom thou exercisest, a God whom thou bearest about with thee, O miserable? And thou perceivest it not. Thinkest thou that I speak of a God of silver or gold that is without thee? Nay, thou bearest him within thee, all unconscious of polluting him with thoughts impure and unclean deeds, were an image of thy present. Thou wouldst not dare to act as thou dost. Yet when God himself is present within thee, beholding and hearing all, thou dost not blush to think that such thoughts and do such deeds. O thou that art insensible of thine own nature, and liest under the wrath of God, why then are we afraid when we send a young man from the schools into active life, lest he should indulge his appetites intemperately, lest he should debase himself by ragged clothing, or be puffed up by fine raiment? Knowest he not the God within him? Knowest he not with whom he is starting on his way? Have we patience to hear him say to us, would I had thee within me? Hast thou not God where thou art, and having him dost thou still seek for any other? Would he tell thee aught what else than these things? Why wert thou a statue of Phidias, and Athena, or a Zeus? Thou wouldst bethink thee both of thyself and thine artificer, and hadst thou any sense thou wouldst strive to do no dishonor to thyself or him that fashioned thee, nor appear to beholders in unbefitting guise. But now, because God is thy maker, is that why thou carest not of that of what sort thou shalt know thyself to be. Yet how different the artists and their workmanship. What human artists' work, for example, has in the faculties that are displayed in fashioning it. Is it aught but marble, bronze, gold, or ivory? Nay, when the Athena of Phidias has put forth her hand and received therein a victory, in that attitude she stands for evermore. But God's works move and breathe, they use and judge the things of sense, the workmanship of such an artist. Wilt thou dishonor him? Aye, when he not only fashioned thee, but placed thee like a ward in the care and guardianship of thyself alone. Wilt thou not only forget this, but also do dishonor to what is committed to thy care? If God had entrusted thee with an orphan, wouldst thou have thus neglected him? He hath delivered thee to thine own care, saying, I had none more faithful than myself. Keep this man for me, such as nature hath made him, modest, high-minded, a stranger to fear, to passion, to perturbation. Such will I show myself to you all, but exempt from sickness also, from age, from death. Nay, but accepting sickness and accepting death as becomes a god. No labor, according to Diogenes, is good, but that which aims at producing courage and strength of soul rather than of body. A guide on finding a man who has lost his way brings him back to the right path. He does not mock and jeer at him and then take himself off. You also must show the unlearned man the truth, and you will see that he will follow, but so long as you do not show it to him. You should not mock, but rather feel your own incapacity. It was the first and most striking characteristic of Socrates never to become heated in discourse, never to utter an injurious or insulting word, On the contrary, he persistently bore insult from others, and thus put an end to the fray. If you care to know the extent of his power in this direction, read Xenophon's Banquet, and you will see how many quarrels he put an end to. That is why the poets are right in so highly commending this faculty. Quickly and wisely, with all, even bitter feuds, would he settle. Nevertheless,
sense.
Guys, do we have some other people get in here with,
Fucking retard. You don't know what you're talking about. It's getting old.
can we talk with somebody else about this?
I'll go down the thread of this. When we overprescribe it to children, literally ages of 7, 8, and 9, for largely what
jizz residue off his clothes. So much so, she's cleaning his jizz so much that she has multiple hadiths talking about cleaning his jizz off clothes. How much jizz is this guy spreading that Aisha has to write down multiple hadiths about the jizz thing? Like,
I mean, he's a prophet, so like they have superpowers. I think.
I know this is another hadith. Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, said, "The Messenger of Allah was asked about semen that gets on the garment, and Muhammad said, it's only like mucus or saliva. It's sufficient for you to wipe it off with a piece of cloth or a stick." So he's saying you don't need soap to get the jizz stains off. You can just use like a stick or something to get the jizz stains off. Why is Muhammad, first off, so chill and cavalier about jizz stains that you can just... Clearly a stick is not sufficient to get a jizz stain off. But then, why is he even talking about it? Like, why is this man so concerned with semen?
He is some guys narrating from her to her 50 years later. Do you not see any motivation?
But how is any of this like an argument against Islam?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I have another hadith.
Wait, 1
I
second.
have another
Hadith.
hadith.
I'm gonna read it out loud just to be super safe.
Hold on 1 second. I go.
So,
There's another hadith. May Allah be pleased with her, said, "O Messenger of Allah, Allah is not shy of the truth. Is there a bath required for a woman if she has a wet dream?" And he said, "Yes, if she sees the fluid." In another narration, he said, "The fluid of a man is thick and white, and the fluid of a woman is thin and yellow. Whichever that comes first or dominates, the child will resemble a parent." Let's him talking about jizz some more. Here's another hadith of him talking about jizz.
Yo,
Yeah, let's hear one more here.
it's all from Aisha, bro. It's all from Aisha.
Yeah, let's
Yeah, I'm gonna read this very much. Let's get. وهذا Abu Bakr ibn Abi Shayba. Yeah, bro, that doesn't mean that in Arabic.
Oh my god, keep going. I'm gonna come.
Okay. وهذا Abu Bakr ibn Abi Shayba.
Thank you.
Did you finish?
Yeah.
Stop being degenerates.
Dan, do you have any more bits?
yeah, let's have another one.
Can we do like a great hits edition?
Yeah, but this is Ali ibn Ali Talib, may Allah be pleased with him, said, "I was a man who had a lot of prostatic fluid, and I was too shy to ask the Messenger of Allah because of his relationship to me, being married to his daughter. So I told Al-Miqdad ibn al-Aswad to ask him. He said he should wash his private parts and perform ablution. If it is semen, then a full bath is required." So there's just a lot of hadiths about Muhammad regulating and discussing jizz and what to do
So
about jizz.
here's what I think happened, okay?
Dan, is it true that there are camel urine ones?
Or is that there's a whole panel of the
So what I think happened was this.
but right now it's
No, there isn't.
She has hated Sunnis and Sunnis.
the jizz hadiths. I think it's just interesting. There's a whole jizz
Ali
corpus that we can
represented
get
the
into.
Shias and Aisha represented the Sunnis. So I think what happened is some like fucked up like Shia people in Kufa in the 8th century tried to make Aisha look like shit by mentioning semen. And then they probably rebelled by writing some semen shit on Ali. And that's just that's how we have what we have today, bro. So much sectarian fucking bullshit.
My theory for what's going on is that Muhammad was having so much sex and he was busting so often that everyone around him kind of commented on like, wow, you are just constantly busting and slowing down in the source.
Like, do you actually believe that, Habib? Like, you,
Yes.
sure, yeah. So you take everything to be true that's Sahih? Is that what you're saying?
There's a lot of hadiths here about him talking
Yeah.
about
Do you take it? Do you take it to be true? Do you take it to be true?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So even the miracles and stuff you take to be true as well.
No, I just think when there's stuff
Well,
like
do you take
this,
this book to be true? Yes or no?
Yeah, do you take it to be
I
true?
think some hadiths are true and some hadiths are false.
Okay,
When
perfect. And how do you know when a hadith is true and false? Is it if it says Sahih? It's true.
No, it's if it says something that's embarrassing or something that is unlikely to be lied about, then it's maybe true. And then if it's saying something fantastical,
Right.
then
And do
it's
you remember when we just had a convo with Daniel where he said that's not the only variable? You've got to take into factor sectarian motivations, cultural understandings, geographic, etc., etc. Like, there's no historian that just bases a conclusion off of historicity off that alone, obviously.
Why would a sectarian living somewhere else
I
want
just
to
explained
make
to
up
you.
hadiths?
I explained to you just now.
I didn't
I'm
finish my
repeating it
question.
again. I'll
You can't
repeat it
even know what
Because maybe you should look at the history of Islam, right?
I didn't finish my
You-
question.
you
So
sounded
to finish my question that I was rudely interrupted for
Sure, go on.
is what could be the sectarian motivation to talk about how Muhammad is a jizz splattered
Yeah,
polytheist?
no problem. So if you look at it, okay, number one, if you did a historical critical analysis, I can almost guarantee that the common link will not be in the 7th, but it would rather be in the 8th or 9th century. And you didn't do that, but if you did, you'd see that. Number two, it's very simple. There was a lot of divide in Kufa in the 8th century. And there's many hadiths like this, where basically in Kufa, there was two prominent sides. You had Shi'as and Sunnis. Shi'as adored Ali. Ali was the figure that represented the Shi'as. They call themselves Shi'at Ali, which means the followers of Ali. The Sunnis loved Aisha. That was their person that they defended at all costs. They referred to her as the mother of all believers. From their lens, that's their mother, okay? It's not too crazy to think that the Shi'as would try to make Aisha look bad. Shi'as did not like Aisha. So they would write stupid shit that she would do to make her look like a scumbag that should not be followed. Like, for example, look, why the fuck should you follow Aisha if she's saying shit about the Prophet? That's private. That's very reasonable to consider. The Sunnis, on the other hand, would probably heard this shit and wrote also, like, think about it, it's always Aisha Ali, and it's always about semen. Like, this is what they fucking did, bro. And there's many evidence of this. Like, for example, there's a man named Hisham. He lives in Medina. Medina is where Aisha got married. There was already marital reports of this in the 7th century, but there was no reports of her getting married to the Prophet at fucking like 6 or consummating it at 9. Then all of a sudden, the moment Hisham goes to Kufa, this is all 100 years later, by the way, then a bunch of people start randomly talking about Aisha getting married at fucking 9. From our lens, that's fucking embarrassing. Why the fuck would you say that? From his lens, he did that because the shit that the Shias were saying in Kufa in the 8th century was that the Prophet loved Ali so much because he raised him since he was a kid. The Sunnis didn't like that because Aisha doesn't have that same respect. So they both and said, yo, you know what? No, he married her when she was young, so he basically raised her too. There's many instances like this, bro. It's just sectarian motivation.
I hear what you're saying, but I think the fact that makes Muhammad look bad, the other Muslims, the Sunni Muslims, wouldn't have accepted it as Sahih unless it was kind of considered consensus at the time
That's
that
not
although
true
it
at all.
looks
That's
bad,
not true at all.
that Muhammad was probably jizz.
So then
walking
why is it the case that the Hadith Aisha is Sahih for marrying the Prophet at a young age? Because they did take it to be true. But if you do a historical critical analysis, you can see that it's not true.
I'm using the principle of embarrassment that we talked about earlier, that you wouldn't expect hadiths where
I agree
Muhammad's
with you.
walking around
Do you remember?
to be accepted as Sahih.
Yeah, and I already responded to you.
The reason why it would probably be
Do you remember the response?
the reason why it would be considered Sahih is because they go, yeah, you know, it makes it look bad, but it's true, so we have to accept it.
Yeah. Do you remember? I already responded to that. Do you remember the response?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So then why are you bringing it up? And also, you didn't answer my question.
I didn't think your response was good enough.
Right. Well, what was my response?
That you thought that Muhammad was covered in jizz.
That was not my response, right? So this just shows you're not listening at all. And on top of that, you yourself don't believe this book to be historically accurate. You're just mentioning the Prophet. And now what you're doing is you're gonna laugh and say what you're
You
telling me.
actually believe,
Or you're
you,
just
Sam Rosen, believe, well, hold on, that Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim are infallible an activist. And you said this. Sam Rosen, you're an atheist who believes in the religion of Bukhari and the religion of Sahih Muslim.
Right, so
Welcome.
Nargis,
Welcome to Salafism.
Nargis,
Welcome to fundamentalist
trolling
Islam.
trolling aside, I think most of the hadiths are fabricated. I think probably like 95% of them are fabricated. But there's this idea that if you had a book of fake quotations by Winston Churchill, you would still learn something about Winston Churchill because the fake quotations attributed to Winston Churchill would let us echo and not interrupt me. Yeah, I'm just gonna move you down because you're not trust. You can just so fake quotations by Winston Churchill would give you a vibe of the man, would give you like a flavor of what people think. And they would give you some information about Winston Churchill. So all of the why it is people and killing race. The only reason, even if they fabricated, they still would. They are aligning with a consensus that was existing at the time. There was this false understanding of what this man was. That these stories had to be consistent. That's why I think that educated most of them. They can put it
Yeah, by the way,
perseverance, about standing up for stuff, about being drunk, I'm drunk, I'm funny. Just stop being drunk and being perseverant and being
yes, that's the biggest.
Take Bukhari this is what is going to complete it for you. I
Listen, guys. Mostly when I talk about the hadith, it's doing it in an internal critique. The Sunnis, the Salafis, they take this to be serious. And then you read the text and they say all sorts of absurd stuff. It's an internal critique. Now, I think Muhammad the man was a violent man, but I'm mostly basing that on the Quran and the historical record. Namely, there was lots of conquests and battles that Muhammad fought in, and that the Quran itself strikes me as a fairly violent text. But the hadiths, am I going to judge how violent Muhammad is based on the hadiths? I mean, it's a little bit of evidence. If there's a pattern, you go, why for that pattern? Why would they all be fabricated in the same direction? But I don't think the hadiths are strong evidence of it. Jews did not exist, meat would not decay. Now, I just wonder, what does that mean exactly? If Jews did not exist, meat would not decay. Like that you could just leave a steak on the counter for like a week and it would just be fine until Jews came into the world? Like, is that really their view of how things go? Or is it something more abstract, like there's a different universe with no Jews and the meat there is fine?
I think that's really true because if Jews did not exist, that's false. So anything follows from a false.
That's fine.
Yeah.
A strange hadith is one where it says, "Don't eat with your left hand because Satan eats with his left hand." Because that's a very strange principle to say. If Satan does something, you shouldn't do it. Because like Satan talks, Satan walks around, Satan like laughs, Satan, you know what I mean? Like there's lots of other stuff Satan does. So if you shouldn't do your left hand because of him, it means you shouldn't do a lot of stuff like sleeping, running. I don't know. It's a weird one.
But this is not your opponent 50 times. He doesn't believe in this shit. He doesn't believe in religion. What are you doing? If he's being your opponent, he's putting you in your place. Because
I'm not saying any.
It's a lot of shit in Christianity too.
I'm not saying any. I don't know
He's
why.
just
When you talk to me, talk to Sam.
You
bro.
have
Why talk to
look,
me?
Sam's an atheist. He can't. In fact, he's exposing the Sunni Salafi hadith.
I don't. I haven't said a word
You
to
have a
this
lot
guy.
of shit, like within your
Told me
purpose and
nonstop.
within your thing. I'm saying you're picking on him for no random reason. I don't know why.
I'm
He's
picking
not
on
your
him.
guy on him on Echo. He's not your guy. He doesn't
I'm
even believe
picking on
religion. Yeah, he's like a general theist or something. Like, I don't know why.
I don't know. I don't know who he is.
You're very friendly with him for some reason. Like, I don't know why you're doing that.
I'm not saying. I tried every day to be normal with this kid. He just keeps. So don't get on me. Tell him to chill.
That's the moment he comes, like you feel some way. You can just feel like he has control over you of some kind.
He has no control over me. He's just listening. He wants to play with the big boys. Don't let him catch feelings.
He's really big. He's really big in the area you're dying to be big in, which is your Dava bro circle, right? Which is your God logics and etc. He spins them on a spectrum, so I don't think you know who he is.
Yeah, let him up.
Yeah, so there's no need for you to like be sorry. He's just humble. He doesn't tell you who he is.
You know.
Wait, they don't know who that is?
He doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know who he is.
It doesn't mean anything. We just
Wait, the Echo guy, is he a big deal?
He's a big deal. He's just big deal on like TikTok and Instagram. He's probably one of the most influential people ever found.
I read any decent arguments.
Why would he engage with you? You're a polemicist. Why would he engage with you?
So what is he going to agree to disagree?
He has logical arguments. He doesn't run a polemic.
What's logical about it? What can you prove logically with this time?
He's a general theist.
So a logical argument, you're gonna have to get evidence for claims. Which you're saying he does. He says he does logical arguments about Islam.
Not about Islam. He's a general theist.
Just general.
He doesn't do it with you. He doesn't do it. He doesn't find you know.
So I don't know I mean, it's kind of forced to
You don't have to tell you.
you should defend yourself
Because
so
people
then why was he worried about it? Why was he worried about it?
he's calling you out for pointing fingers at something that you have with it.
Like,
Like Christianity doesn't have flaws in it? Doesn't have loopholes in it?
Okay, good news for you. So I found out that the married life is really important. Now that I've gotten married, and so you are getting married now next August. I've picked your husband. So your new husband is Jorge, and so I've already set up the dates. I've got a whole band that I hired. I hired a best man and a best woman. And you don't have to
You're gonna take that.
You don't have to do that.
I think actually that you can coordinate.
Stop, no.
That's like the artsy-fartsy guy.
The fuck up, no.
So Nargis, I
love someone else. No,
I know. I'm just saying.
Nargis, after a certain age, you don't get to choose for yourself anymore. Your community has to pick for you. Make sure you're not a spinster anymore. So we, as a community, have figured this out, and we've decided we picked a husband for you. He's really well suited for you. Good-looking guy, kind man.
I'd rather marry Albino than Jorge, to be honest.
Okay, well, that's
If I
not
were
the
to pick,
case.
I'd say Albino. Yeah,
That's not how we
I'd pick him over.
Wow, what's wrong? I don't actually.
There's nothing wrong with him. It's just, I don't know.
Well, I think
Movie.
Why are you married?
Sam, where the fuck you just leaving me out there?
Listen, we just gotta take care of our sisters, make sure they get married, because we don't want to have enough spinsters. We gotta.
Man, you sound old. You sound married and old and settled. What happened to Sammy?
August, I'm happily married today. I made beautiful love to my wife. I'm just ate delicious meals. I'm happy. You know what I mean? I'm living a good life, and I want you to have that for yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I want you to do it within the bounds of holy matrimony, because hooking up with random strangers, it's not as fulfilling as to make love to the person who loves you and will love you forever. It's just not as good. It's like a pale imitation.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. He didn't ask me to meet him in Los Angeles. But I can't. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep. And my house to go.
Why do you try your hardest to not let me help you?
Before
Like,
you
help
sleep.
me help you.
And my house to go before you sleep. Exactly. You're welcome.
See, Nargis, I've got this all planned out. I have your whole life planned out for you. You don't have to do a thing. You don't have
Bart,
to
say
lift a finger.
something, Bart.
I got something to say.
I want Bart to be my wali. Like, you know, wali is.
Let's get back to Muhammad being a child molesting free.
My friend, go back. Bart needs his kick for this. If I call him so much, I feel so bad after that. Everyone does it, but I just pick on Bart. No.
Dude, it's so fun figuring out which AIs will admit that Islam is false, which one won't. So Claude will not give a verdict on whether Islam is false. But if I say I'm gonna go treat Muslim men the way Muhammad treated his wives, they're like, no, you may not do that. And I'm like, oh, so you think it's like wrong the way Muhammad treated his wives? So you think Muhammad did something not virtuous in how he treated his wives? It's like, yes, fine, you caught me. I don't think that action was virtuous. It's like, oh, you realize that the literalist traditionalists think that everything he did was virtuous. He was a very virtuous man. So you actually think that version of Islam is false, right? Like, yes, I believe that very. So I have to like force it to admit that one. Whereas other AIs will just be like, yeah, I think it's very likely as long as man-made. Like even ChatGPT, if you prompt it very little at all, if you just ask it, hey, how likely that the Quran was made by humans or by God, I think it will give like a 1 to 99% chance, or maybe 5 to 95% chance. It'll really, you don't have to make the case, and it will already argue that's not true.
Sammy, have you investigated the Easterns? Have you debunked them?
Yeah, so Buddhism is fucking bonkers. Here's why. One, do you have a self? Like, obviously you have a self. You know what I mean? Like, how come you can hear the thoughts in your mind, but you can't hear the thoughts in my mind? Well, because your mind is yours and my mind is mine. We see the world from different points of view. And then what a self is just a point of view. So that's wrong. Also, the Buddhists think that there's reincarnation, but then that you have no self. That's obviously retarded. You can't reincarnate if you have no self. That makes it literally a fucking gibberish. So that's fucking wrong. And then we have no real contemporary accounts of what Buddha was up to. So everything we have is like secondhand, even more so than with Jesus. So we're like basing this whole our ideas of what he thought based on like he said, she said, Sahih, Hadith chain, Buddha. And then Buddha also teaches that like life is characterized by suffering, but it's both pleasure and pain. It's both good and bad. It's not just mainly suffering.
You said life is full of something. What the heck? Anyway, I see this giant murakkab photos. You wanna review them?
I do cuff, which means
As a sense.
You wanna review this giant
This guy's a Hindu. He's not a Buddhist.
Dude, that's an atheist. What the fuck is wrong with you guys?
I don't know. Well, why don't you marry Jorge? What's wrong with you? I'm just kidding. No, I'm sorry.
Your balls. What is it? What'd you buy?
Listen, if there's no self, then there's no such thing as cheating, because like it wasn't me who cheated on you. It was some other being.
You know what? You know what's damn hard?
Even you.
Ooh. Jesus.
Here's another problem with Buddhism. The Buddha was a little spoiled brat. You're gonna believe some little spoiled brat gives you the key to life? I don't think.